some jazz since our story is about jazz this week. So take a couple of minutes and enjoy Wynton Marsalis, probably one of the greatest trumpet players that is still living in our day. He's a famous jazz trumpeter like the man in our story is. So take a listen. I think you'll enjoy Wynton Marsalis playing a little jazz. What do you think about that? I love jazz, don't you? I can imagine that was the kind of sounds that was coming out at the Rent Party Jazz that we've been reading about this week. So I hope you enjoyed that. Just look up, you can see it here on the screen. Wynton Marsalis is his name. If you like that kind of music, he's a great person to listen to. You can find lots of jazz on YouTube if you'd like to listen to some more jazz. It's fun music. Well, let's take a look at a couple things today. First off, I hope you enjoyed your story about the monster at the beginning of our slides. Remember their AR test? And so as we look forward to Halloween, these stories are getting a little more monstery each day. So enjoy them, take your AR test on them, and then get back into the slides. So starting with jazz, but we got to get our vocabulary learned this week still for our story. So we're going to do these vocabulary cards and take a look at them to get started today. So our first word we worked with this week is auction. An auction is an event where items are sold to the person who offers the most money. So you see the people holding up their cards there. They have a certain number, and if they want to buy it, they hold their number up, and he might say, number 88 bids $100, number 89 $105. So the auctioneer will tell who gets to buy it. Whoever offers the most money gets to buy it at an auction. All right, our next word is drifting. So here's just a piece of plastic or something drifting in the water. Hope somebody gets that out. I can't tell what that is. If you're drifting, you're moving slowly without much direction. Drifting. Next word is damp. When you get things out of the washing machine, they feel damp, don't they? If something is damp, it feels just a little bit wet. That looks like a beach towel or something that's damp. I like to be at the beach and getting my feet damp in the water. Spare. Something you can spare is something extra that you have and that you don't really need. So it looks like this guy's giving a spare pencil to a friend. Verses. The verses of a song are the different sections that usually change throughout the song. The verses. Chorus. The chorus of a song is the part that is repeated after each verse. And brimming. If something is brimming, it's full, and it's just about to overflow. That cup of coffee there, boy, that looks good, doesn't it? I'd like to have some coffee this morning. It's brimming. If you lift it up and tilt it, it's going to spill out because it's all the way filled. It's filled all the way to the top. And those are our vocabulary words for our story this week. Make sure you know them and what they mean. And we're going to take a look at a vocabulary strategy for just a minute. And you know these words. They're synonyms and antonyms. We've talked about them this year, but let's review what they are today. A synonym is a word that means the same or almost the same as another word. An antonym is a word that's opposite meaning to another word. So synonyms, S for same. Antonyms, it's got a vowel a opposite, starts with a vowel. Synonyms mean the same. Antonyms mean the opposite. Synonyms and antonyms can help you understand vocabulary words. Thinking about how words are the same and different can help you understand their meanings better. So here's some examples. The large box sat next to the big chair. You probably know what large and big mean, but they're two synonyms in the sentence. If you didn't, then you might see big as a synonym in that sentence. Kind of gives you an idea of what large means. Large box set next to the big chair. These are two synonyms in a sentence. The stove is hot, but the refrigerator is cold. Well, they're antonyms, aren't they? They're opposites. Hot and cold are opposites. Number 3, the children sang loudly until I asked him to sing more quietly. Antonyms, they're opposites. Loudly and quietly are opposites. Number 4, she came in quietly and spoke softly. They're synonyms. They mean the same, don't they? Quietly and softly are synonyms. So synonyms and antonyms. Synonyms are words that mean the same. Antonyms are words that are opposites. Let's take a look at something real quick. Let me grab my book because we've got to read a little bit before we get into our story today. So we're looking at author's craft. We've looked at several things about author's craft this year already. We've looked at the mood that the author can put in the story. We've looked at the voice the author uses. And what we're looking at today specifically is formal language and informal language that an author might use in the story. I'm going to turn back because we're going to have to read here. Give me 1 second. I forgot to get that ready. All right, so now I'm ready. But when people talk, they use different kind of language. Their language depends on what they are doing and who they are with. Authors also use different kinds of language when they write. The chart below explains formal and informal language. These two types of languages are used by authors to help readers better understand the characters in a story. So just being silly with formal and informal language. Formal language is how I would talk to my boss. Yes, sir. I'll get to that immediately. Informal language is how I might talk to my friend. Yo, homie, what's up, dude? That's informal language. I probably wouldn't say that to my friend, but that would be informal language, wouldn't it? So formal language is what it sounds like. It's very formal. Informal is more relaxed. So let's look at some examples. What is formal language? The way people speak in important situations or with people they don't know well. And so if I was to meet President Trump, do you think I would use formal language? I sure would. When I meet somebody important, you would speak differently. Complete sentences with standard grammar and vocabulary. I would hope to speak in complete sentences and not use a whole lot of slang or phrases that I would use around somebody that I wasn't using formal language with. Where would it be used? Well, you would read about it in newspaper articles. If you ever give a speech, you need to use formal language. School reports. An example, the music was lively and rhythmic. Informal language, that's the way people speak at relaxed events with family or friends. It's relaxed. You can use sentence fragments. Y'all know what I mean, right? You can use irregular grammar, slang. We use a lot of that in Tennessee. Y'all, it. Y'all know what I said, but people up north wouldn't know what I just said. When would you use it? At home with family or conversations with friends? And you might say, I'm loving that music. Instead of, that music is lively and rhythmic. It's more informal. So this tells us to read paragraph 1 in Rent Party Jazz. So I'm going to read the first paragraph to you, and then we'll answer the questions. Every morning, as the sun was coming up, Sonny went to work for the coal man. I sells my coal 2 bits a sack. The coal man cried out as they drove slowly down the street of the French Quarter. So if you're looking on page 174 with me in that first paragraph, I sells my coal 2 bits a sack. What does that word ma mean as it's used in that sentence? I sells my coal 2 bits a sack. Well, it's my, isn't it? We would say, I sell my coal for 2 bits a sack. It's slang. It's informal language, isn't it? because that's not the correct spelling of my. It's not how you say my. It's just, it helps us understand this character in the story. He's just talking like he normally talks. I sells my coal 2 bits a sack. It's just the kind of language he's using. Why do you think the author chose to include this sentence in the story? Well, it creates a mood, doesn't it? It creates a mood of, here we are. It makes me feel like I'm in New Orleans, and there's people talking like that in New Orleans. You know, they got that Cajun accent in New Orleans, and I sells my coal, you know, and so it puts you in a mood. It puts you in the setting. It puts you in the mood of like being in New Orleans. So the author is using that one word there. It does a whole lot to set the mood of where the story is taking place. And also it's more of like the characters in the story, they talk a little bit like maybe some of your African American friends talk. They have their own kind of slang languages, slang words that they would use in their language, like that too, especially down in New Orleans. You know, it says read page 176 in Rent Party Jazz and find some examples of formal or informal language. So I'll read it and you can decide. One morning, Sonny came home to find Mama sitting at the kitchen table. She looked like she had been crying. Formal language or informal language? That's formal, isn't it? What about the next one? What's the matter, Mama? Are you sick? Worse than sick, Sonny. I've been let go from my job. These are some hard times and folks aren't buying much fancy fish. Might be 3-4 months before they need these hands again. That's informal, isn't it? There's some words in that paragraph 7 there on page 176, like buy-in. It doesn't have the G at the end. Instead of buying, it's buy-in. And 3 or 4 months before they need these hands again, instead of saying before, it's just for. So that's informal language. Sonny's heart sank. Rent day would be coming soon, and the rent man didn't care whether you had a job or not. That's formal language, isn't it? It's just proper grammar. Let's see. I've got 2 weeks to find something else. You stay in school and learn everything you can, everything, so things will be better for you. There's informal again. She says something else instead of something else down in paragraph 10. So the author uses a lot of informal and formal language in this story. It makes it more real because when the characters are speaking, it makes you feel like you understand them a little bit better when you're reading it the way it's written. And it makes you understand the characters better and how they would live and how they would talk. And so authors can use these techniques in their writing to help us get more into the story a little better. Okay. Well, it's your turn to read the story today. So it begins on page 172 in your reading book. And I want you today to focus on reading out loud. So find somebody, something, mom, dad, grandma, aunt, uncle, sister, brother, pet, stuffed animal, the mirror, whatever. Read the story out loud to yourself today. And as you read it, and you read some of that informal language, why don't you try to say it like you think the character would say it? So, I sells my coal for 2 bits a bag. Say it like that instead of just reading it boringly. It makes it more interesting to the person you're reading it to also. So read your story today. After you read your story, you've just got a couple little things to do for me today. We're going to review some spelling again and also verb tenses. So get those done next. Enjoy your day.